Now, I want to talk about feminism and how to defeat feminism. Simply put, I don't think it is possible to defeat feminism. And the reason I don't think it's possible to defeat feminism is because it has very much the same traits as religion. And by this I mean, take for instance, feminism has patriarchy theory, and religion has the teleological argument. For those who don't know, the teleological argument is the argument of design, the idea that the world is so well designed that there must have been a creator, and it is a very convincing argument, albeit not one that proves God. The second argument, or the one for feminism, is the argument of patriarchy, the idea that men created a society dominated by men and in the interests of men. Now, when you criticize either of their theories, what they'll often do is they'll often try to weasel out the problems. For instance, for the teleological argument, there is a problem of evil, and why of suffering, for instance. And the way they weasel out that one is by saying, well, Adam and Eve created an original sin and we're paying for it. Now, obviously, this has a lot of problems apart from evolution and the obvious reasons. The biggest reason is, well, why do we suffer for their mistake? And patriarchy theory, feminists say, well, patriarchy hurts men too, and it's a very convincing and, well, not convincing, just a very annoying and easy way to weasel out the problems of patriarchy theory. Feminism, unfortunately, is not something that you can just locate in one area. It is not something that just... Feminism embodies all of women. I mean, it should be called womanism. Feminism is the inevitability of gynocentrism and the wealth of societies. For instance, Rome, as it became more wealthy, as it became more secure, it became more matriarchal, and I think there were other societies. I think Crete was another one. So as societies become more wealthy, as they become more independent, as they become more protected by, they become more feminist. Now, I don't have a problem with female equality, but what the feminism that I'm talking about is the ideological one, and I'm talking about the use of feminism as a tool to bully and create extra privileges without having to take any of the obligations. For instance, not having to be part of the not having to be signed up for conscription, even though that's how men got the vote. It was a trade-off for them, but not for women. Now, I'm well aware that 1 in 5 people say they are feminists, which, on the surface of it, sounds like people are rejecting feminism. But in reality, I'm a lot more skeptical about this. And the reason I'm skeptical is because it is just a tactic to withdraw from the harshness of feminism on men. I guess you could call it a sort of guilt. For instance, they may mock feminism, they may say, I'm not feminist, but they will still take the opportunities afforded by feminism to quotas, even if women didn't deserve the opportunities, or they just weren't as qualified as other candidates, whether it be male or female. Furthermore, the problem of patriarchy is further exacerbated by hypergamy, and the result of this is that men tend to go into occupations where there is more, quote, power, end quote. And the reason I put quote is because it is a very simplistic way of looking at power. Power is not as simple as, well, who's the guy in the Oval Office or whatnot. It is not the guy who is the leader of Parliament. It's a lot more complex than that. We all legitimize the state through our transactions. For instance, George Bush was deeply unpopular during the end of his reign, and yet there wasn't a revolution to take George Bush out of office. No, instead they waited until his term was over, and that's because we have a respect for election terms and the discourse of democracy, for instance. And men will always look to seek these positions of, quote, power, because women practice hypergamy, and that is, they look for men with equal, if not higher status than their own as a partner. And this is why men are very reluctant to be house husbands, because they know that they are not, technically speaking, needed, and that they can be dismissed at any time, which results in a great deal of vulnerability and anxiety. I guess the point I'm trying to make is libertarianism is simply not possible. In order to become a libertarian state, you have to destroy all these discourses of socialism, of feminism, of conservatism, of traditionalism, of gynocentrism, and you cannot defeat them. It is impossible. The only way I could possibly see libertarianism working is if there's a small island of like-minded people that start up and create a constitution that basically says no taxes, no nothing. The only thing that could happen is if there is a sudden decline in living standards, and I don't know. I even think this is doubtful, and the reason I think it is doubtful is because we are so accustomed to, especially women, the consumerist lifestyle. 80% I think of retail purchases are by women, and I think that speaks volumes. And I don't think they're going to give that up. Even if there's a war or something, I don't think women. I think women would rather the West just died altogether than reduce their living standards. And I think that a great example of that is the national debt, and how we just keep passing on the national debt, and that not only the national debt but the personal debts as well. And women tend to get in debt quite a lot because they spend too much money on materialist crap. Sorry, but it's true. The fact that we have, well, the United States of America anyway has $18 trillion of debt just shows that, you know, they don't, that women are willing to sell off the future of their children in order to get extra benefits, extra goodies for what is an inefficient system. We have a ridiculous, I think it's 40% illegitimacy rate in the United States of America, and a ridiculous amount of single parent mothers. And the state cannot afford it. The state simply cannot afford it. It is a costly bureaucratic machine, and it decays everything because men grow up not so much without a role model, but without a role. It used to be that men, they went to work because they had children, because they had a wife, and that was how they got status. But now that fathers are no longer necessary, they have been thrown out since the 60s, should we say, but especially in the 80s. And because of this, why should they? Why should they get married? And you know, you look at the marriage rates; it's plummeting. The birth rates are plummeting all around the world in Western countries. Germany, I think it's 1.4, which is about the same as Japan. And it's especially bad for the white population as well. Now, I'm not going into race, but I think it is a problem. I don't think white people want to be a minority. I think that is a problem. I do think that is a problem for white people. I'm not going to go too much into that, but it is a calamity of a situation that we're in with $18 trillion of debt, reducing birth rates, a broken economy, a state that is paying for the roof on welfare. It's ridiculous. And I think this is where it's going to collapse, and I don't know, will feminism survive? Will women give up their privileges? I don't know. But I don't think feminism can be defeated. It's a virus, it's a religion, it cannot be destroyed. Their heaven is not an afterlife, their heaven is the now life. It is a matriarchy. And we're going to become more and more like Sweden, and Sweden is going to become more and more an oppressive matriarchy, which I think it is already. So thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed listening, and yeah, I'm sorry, it's just not possible. Libertarianism, it isn't possible. Not in this society, not in a country of over 300 million, not in Europe or America with a stranglehold of socialism. It's just not going to happen.